In the previous lecture, we learned how we could retrieve and use the mouse position to make a character follow the mouse around. In this lecture, we're going to learn how we can respond to mouse button input from the player. And before we do, you should take an in-video quiz about mice. Okay, the answer from the Unity perspective is 3. Left, right, and middle for the mouse buttons, though of course gamers understand that that's not necessarily all the buttons you get if you have a rat mouse or a Razer Naga or something like that. So for us, we'll only deal with up to 3 mouse buttons, but we know that some mice have way more than that. Okay, let's go to Unity and see how we can process mouse button input. Now we're going to change our game so that we change characters when the player clicks the left mouse button. So I've already added a new script called Character Changer here, and I've attached that script to the main camera. So this is not really functionality that should live inside a character, right? Because it doesn't know about other characters. So it doesn't really make sense to add this to a particular character to change to a new character. Instead, this is a higher level sort of game level function. And so those kinds of game functionality go into like the main camera or sort of higher level game manager scripts rather than attached to a particular object. That's really good object-oriented design. So this character changer script, that's a higher level functionality attached to the main camera, has 4 different fields that I have populated with the prefabs for the 4 different characters so that I can change to one of those other characters when the time comes. Let's go look at that script. So here are those 4 fields that I mentioned. We also need to keep track of what the current character is, because when we change characters, we're going to change to a new character at the same location the current character is at. If we were going to sort of spawn that new character at the origin in the center of the screen, then we wouldn't have to do this at all, but it looks nicer to actually do it where the current character is. The start method just puts character 0 into the game at the center of the screen so that we start with the character in the game. And then update is called once per frame, but obviously there's nothing here yet. So the first thing we need to know is how can we tell if the left mouse button is clicked? And to find that out, we of course go read the scripting reference documentation for the input class. And here's that documentation. This time we actually do need a method. And the method we need is get mouse button down. So this returns true during the frame the user pressed the given mouse button. So we'll click on it to learn a little bit more about the method. And we see that we provide a button number. And if you go down to the example here, you can see that button 0 is the left mouse button. So we now know that we can use exactly this if right here to find out whether or not the left mouse button was pressed this frame. We don't care if the player holds it down or anything. We just want the first time it's pressed, and that's when we're going to change the character. So I will say change character on left mouse button. So if input get mouse button down, we saw that 0 is left. So I'm going to do 2 different things here. First, I'm going to save the position the current character is at, and then I will instantiate a new character at that position. I will also destroy the current character because we're not trying to stack characters up. We're just trying to change characters. So the position is just the current characters. Transform position And now I can destroy current character. And that will remove the current character game object from the scene. I'm going to type in the code that generates the new random character, and then we'll talk about it. First, I generate a random number that's 0, 1, 2, or 3. Remember, the upper bound is exclusive on this method call. And then I put it into prefab number, a local variable here. If that prefab number is 0, I'm going to set current character to instantiating prefab character 0 at the position quaternion.identity, and I do a series of else ifs and an else to do that for prefab character 1, 2, or 3. This can be an else because if the prefab number is not 0, 1, or 2, it has to be 3. So that instantiates our new current character. So of course I need to save my script to make sure that when I run it in the editor, it actually uses this most recent version of the script. And I also need to remove this character 0 from the scene because remember, the start method of the character changer script is going to add one of those right when we start the game. So I run the game and I move the character around and she clamps fine like she used to. And when I left click, I get a different character. Now I just left clicked there and it didn't change characters. That doesn't mean the code is broken. It means that it's generated a random prefab number here, and the prefab number it generated happens to be the same prefab number of the character that was currently there. And so this is one of those instances where you might believe the game isn't working properly, but it really is. The nature of random numbers is we might generate the same random number twice in a row, or even more if we're really unlucky. So there you go. Now we have processed the left mouse button to actually change the character in our game. To recap, in this lecture, we learned how we can process mouse button input to use it within our Unity games.